I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar event. My name is Joshua, and I'm going to be your presenter today. We're here to talk about linking Church Windows accounting to both the Church Windows donations module and to our payroll module. Before we get into that topic, well, first of all, there's no printed material for today's event. I'm going to show you where I think we have access to that in our help files. Where in both payroll and in Church Windows where you can access printed information for that. But there's no handout or anything linked to today's event. If you've got, click the little red arrow on the sidebar next to your control panel, webinar control panel, to get that out of the way. Particularly important if you're using a single monitor setup. Allows you to get the full visual effect of the presentation today, or drag it off to your second desktop if you've got a dual monitor setup. We leave everyone muted. If you have questions, please type in your questions into the questions portion of the webinar control panel. I will do my best to keep an eye on that and either answer it during the event or at the very end. We do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to spend with us today. Please keep the questions on topic, meaning about our linking donations or payroll into our accounting software, into the chart of accounts. There may be another webinar that's better suited to answer your questions, or of course our support staff are available and happy to help via telephone or email during the days, of course. So, by all means, please let us know if you have questions on a different topic if necessary. Okay, so we are recording today's event. It will be available out on our website. I think we have, this is being recorded to replace an event from a couple years ago, maybe even older at this point. But it will be available to revisit here sometime in the next 24 to 48 hours or so. So you can always go back and rewatch this event on the Support Center page later if you wish. I will end the webinar at 20 minutes after, no matter where we are, and see what I can't do to answer questions. Again, thank you so much for attending. Okay, so the first and foremost important thing to understand about linking Church Windows, the donations module, and payroll to our accounting is, and I know this seems obvious, but it's important to understand, is there has to be a chart of accounts in accounting to link those modules to. Like I said, I know it sounds terribly obvious, but you'd be surprised at how folks don't understand that you can't link the modules, donations, and payroll to a chart of accounts that doesn't exist. Okay, so the bottom line is unless you have a chart of accounts entered in accounting right here, like we've got here in our accounting software, there's nothing to link in payroll or donations. Got to have assets, bank accounts to which those the monies come out of, or go into, as the case may be, from donations. Donations represents deposits into our assets, and of course payroll is money is spent out of our cash accounts. Payroll is a little more complex than our donations, but again, one is income coming in, one is money being spent typically. Okay. In addition to that, we also have, in addition to our asset accounts right up here at the very top, we also have to have the necessary either income accounts for donations or expense accounts for payroll. So down here we've got a variety of payroll, salary, benefits, compensation expenses, as I would call them generally, and of course our income accounts to support our giving that comes in from donations. Payroll, in so much as that it is also dealing with taxes, you will also have to have liabilities set up in your chart of accounts for things like 941 federal taxes and or 941 taxes for Social Security and federal income tax, and state taxes if applicable, and local tax liabilities, even liabilities for things like deductions for pension or insurance contributions from payroll. And to even take it a step further, in terms of how we're linking donations into it, perhaps you've got some donations that come in as pass-through monies, he says with air quotes, money that goes in and passes through the church's accounts, but we don't consider it income on our treasurer's report or an expense, and so we have, crop walk and housing for habitat and hurricane relief. Our church considers those pass-through monies that we don't show on our treasurer's report, and so we link those giving accounts directly to those liability pass-throughs. So again, there is some setup in our chart of accounts that is required to support both our linking from donations into accounting and from payroll into accounting, or out of accounting, as the case may be, okay? So again, we've got a sample chart of accounts on our website, folks. If you need some assistance with this, our technical staff and support folks are here available to talk through this with you. I'll see what I can't go back in and find that sample chart of accounts to kind of give you an idea of some of this, but hopefully this will become a little bit clearer. So let's talk a little bit about linking donations to accounting first, okay? So the software is flexible enough, well, and powerful enough to be able to support this linking between donations and accounting from either the accounting side of the software, the accounting module here in accounting, or from donations. So I'm in accounting right now. So if we go up to, say, transactions at the top left here, and then we go right across the top center, let me get up my highlighter, so transactions here in the upper left, and then we go right across here up to transfer donations, right there, okay? So when we click on transfer donations, it then takes a few seconds, but it opens up our transfer donations to accounting screen, and what I'm here to show you here is right here, this tab down here in the middle called default account links. Okay, so when we click on that tab called default account links, we are seeing our giving accounts listed here on the left side, giving accounts, okay, and over here, you know, and here's the line, so the giving accounts are highlighted in blue, and then over here to the right, we need a debit account and a credit account at least, the debit account representing the bank account where those monies, the giving is deposited each week, and the credit account is typically going to be an income account that reports on our treasurer's report for the donations income. Not always. I'll come back to that in a minute. If you're a pledging church and you accept prepaid monies, people that are paying on their pledge before the actual pledge period begins, you'll want to set up a prepaid credit liability account called something like prepaid pledges in your chart of accounts as well. But not all churches are pledging churches, and two, not all of them, you know, not all churches have pledges, and not always necessarily are prepaids in play as well. So only if you're a pledging church and you accept and receive prepaids would you require that need that prepaid credit account. But we definitely need to get both a debit and a credit account in here, okay? Accounting is a dual entry, double entry fund accounting system, so there's two accounts involved in every transaction. So as you know, when we debit the money into our bank account, it's going to raise the balance of the asset in accounting, but at the same time we've got to credit it into an income and expense to also add it into the fund side or liability side of our balance sheet as well. Okay, so if I scroll down here, we're going to find that I've got a new account here called Music Fund Giving that I've added to my giving accounts here in donations, and I've now got to link that to my respective debit and credit accounts right here. Folks, when you add new giving accounts in donations, you know, you may need to add a new account in accounting to support that. So if we didn't have, say, an income account set up for receipt, you know, accepting our music fund on, say, our giving on our treasurer's report, might have to go into accounting and add a new income account or an expense or a liability or whatever money that's going to credit. Now the cash account is pretty simple because that's typically the asset where the money is deposited. So we're going to say, yep, our music fund giving is going to go right into our Huntington Bank checking. Notice right here under the debit account, it only lets us choose assets. And then over here on the right, under the credit account, I think I'm going to type in music, and sure enough, there's my income account for giving for music income. Okay, so I choose that. I have now linked my giving account that I've added in donations to the respective debit, you know, cash account and the income account on my treasurer's report. Okay, that giving account is now set up for me to transfer my batches and giving as it comes in for giving account 265 and transfer it seamlessly into my books in accounting. Okay, Now I've done this from the accounting side. Okay, so I want to take a second here and I want to close out and go back. I want to minimize and go back into donations now, and I want to show you how we can do that here. Once we're in donations, we can go up to donations in the upper left corner. Okay, again, donations in the upper left, and then right down here across the top center to transfer to accounting. It opens up the same exact window no matter which module I'm in, okay? Why this is important is, and why it's available in both modules, is because maybe you have one person doing donations, but the church decides we're not going to have the donation person transfer the giving into accounting. We're going to have our accounting person do that. So maybe it's a permissions issue, or a division of responsibility, or what have you, okay? But that's why this is available in both the donations module and the accounting module, is because the software has to support the security requirements and audit trail requirements for how we want to do that. Okay, but when I click on transfer to accounting, notice it opens the same exact window. Same window called transfer donations to accounting, and I've got my tab here called default account links, and right here I've got the same exact window I was looking at in accounting. Okay, so if your giving accounts are active, we strongly recommend that you link a debit and a credit account for each one of these giving accounts. Why? Because if I don't, then I have to choose that account each time when I've got giving coming in and posted, and I want to send it into accounting. And what does that do? That introduces the possibility for human error and a mistake, where maybe I choose one account, credit account one week and a different credit account the next week, and then I've got some inconsistencies going on in my data, okay? So this is what the software was designed to do. It's meant to literally transfer seamlessly from donations into accounting. And if I go right back here to my transfer donations, I've got some batches here. So if I click on some of these right here, we notice here I've got both a debit and a credit account. I can post these to the right, and they will, in 2 mouse clicks, and I'll send them right into the desired accounts in accounting. Okay? Also, when I go to manage accounts, if I'm looking at any one of my giving accounts here under my giving accounts page, I can also establish that link right here on the tab to the right called accounting links. So this is where I can isolate each independent giving account and its respective accounts. But I like to steer folks to the transfer donations to accounting, because that default account links allows me to see all of my giving accounts, and especially to see which may not be linked properly. Okay, I don't have to go through each giving account here to check it. I can just go to the default account links tab there and see every giving account and see if it's populated with its necessary income and asset, or liability or expense, as the case may be. Okay. Just final thing about that here is, when I go into this transfer to accounting, I've got 5 minutes left here, 6 minutes, so we're gonna jump into payroll here real quick. Default account links. Notice here, most of these accounts credit a 400 account, but as we go down, it does credit both either a liability, or even further down, we can credit an expense. Okay, so like here, I've got a youth trips payments expense. Well, where the church is prepaying a trip for the youth, it's receiving reimbursement monies from the parents for those. We want to credit that expense back so it doesn't actually report as an expense to the church, or anything that remains unpaid is an actual expense to the church due to, maybe somebody didn't reimburse us, or it was a gift to the family or something like that. Or again, in the case of our pass-throughs, disaster relief is crediting our 230-050 disaster relief recovery. Don't want those monies to hit our treasurer's report. So we're sending it into that liability, so the balance sits there until we're ready to pay it from accounting. Okay? Doesn't show up on our treasurer's report as either income or an expense on our treasurer's report at all for the year. Okay? All right, so let's jump into payroll now. I've got that open down here. So if we go right here into payroll, we've got about 5 minutes left here, folks. I think we should be able to do this here. First of all, if we've got to link payroll to accounting. So the way I recommend doing that is if you go into contents here, we've got a nice topic here under help. Right here, it says down here at the bottom, let me get up my highlighter again. Number 7 under our easy steps to begin using payroll, it says you will be using if you're using Church Windows Accounting, link payroll to Church Windows Accounting. So you have to do that. At least in the current version, we have to do that. All right. So you can go in here and print those instructions here for how we link Church Windows Payroll to accounting. If you have trouble with that, you can certainly call us. Our technicians, myself included, are certainly happy to help with that. Okay. Once we have payroll and accounting linked, of course, and we've got our chart of accounts set up and we've got our employees, I've gone ahead and set up a new employee here. Under my data setup and employee file, I'm now ready to link them to our accounting, their accounts in accounting. So if I now click under System Administration here to the right, and I go right down to option number 2, Account Number Setup, takes a few seconds here, but here's my new employee, John Doe. Notice this software populates automatically with my checking account, my federal and state tax liability accounts. Why? Because I've got those set up under my Set Defaults page right here. Okay. So, if you set the defaults, you can go, okay, I want the monies, the net paid to come out automatically from the, to set it as the checking account for all of my employees all the time. I want the federal and state tax liabilities to be the same, again, for consistency's sake. Okay. Once you do that, then you would simply do apply defaults, but it did it automatically after I set it up, of course. But really what we're here to look at are these other options. So right here, we've got expense account, or employer's FICA Medicare expense, or we've got local taxes, deductions, and allowances here in the middle, okay? So there's, the payroll transactions are essentially complex journal entries, all right? So there's a lot of moving parts as part of those payroll transactions. So we want to make sure we're doing this, entering this and linking these employees for our new employees or what have you before we calculate their pay. So here I would come into my regular expense account and I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to see if I can find a music. I don't have the enhanced search, folks, like I do in my Church Windows Accounting. Not yet. It's coming. So we're going to type in here and we're going to choose music director salary. Then over here I would choose whatever expense account, assuming they're a lay person, which in this case we're going to assume that they are. Then I would go down here and I would find the whatever expense account I have set up for church portion of FICA Medicare. I would then go to any local taxes if I had any deductions that the employee might be paying into for health insurance or pension contributions, or in the case of ministers, allowances. So if I now click apply and I go up, and with just about a minute left here, I go back to my senior pastor, Larry. If I click on him, we notice now here we've got under deductions a number of deductions here, and those can credit either an expense or a liability, however you choose to handle it or deal with that, okay? And then when we go to our allowances, we've got him set up with some allowances, both an automobile mileage reimbursement and a housing allowance. Those are going to debit an expense. Deductions are, of course, a credit into accounting, and those are typically going to be either most commonly a 2 liability or a 5 expense, okay? And then local taxes would probably be a liability as well. But I now have John Doe set up with the appropriate accounts, and I can now, when I calculate his payroll, it will transfer seamlessly into accounting. When you add an employee for the first time under Data Setup and Employee File, you'll get a dialog box, folks, that'll pop up and say, hey, before you calculate your payroll, remember to go to System Administration and Account Number Setup and link that employee. Otherwise, you're going to have to manually link them, then go in and populate it for future pays, okay? That is our topic for the day.